Bisexuals of Reddit. What are the differences between having sex with a male and a female? Titty is better with females. Everyone's different. But in general, men are about the ACT, women are about the context. If a guy wants to you, or wants to do something specific within they just want to do it. A freight train could be bearing down on them and they'd go, well, we've got time before it gets here. Best not waste it. What a girl wants to do is very much more determined by how she feels about you specifically, how sexy she finds the environment, what else is happening in her life, the fluidity of the communication, and the expectations or lack thereof for a relationship. Every woman I've slept with doesn't stop until I'm finished. Can't say that for every man. Lol. Woman here. Based on my few experiences with each genders, I feel like there's more communication with women. It feels more relaxed and it feels like they take more time to observe your reactions etc. to understand what works and what doesn't work for you. With men, it's more of a go kind of situation where it's fast-paced. I think in their minds they thought it felt passionate, almost as if to say I'm so excited to be you. But in actuality it makes me feel like I'm just another person who they will repeat their sex routine with, whereas a woman's moves always felt intuitive and tailored just for me, if that makes sense. With a male, it's harder to find the clitoris. Sex with two women can go on for hours to an entire day if they wanted. Guys can't really do the all-day sex thing. Not that it's bad, I've been with both and both types of sex are great, but generally it doesn't take as long for a woman to figure out what the other wants orally than it does for a man to figure it out and kinda change it up too often. The difference is I can't find a female willing to have sex with me, but all kinds of shitty guys are widely available. For me, the biggest difference in the power exchange. With women, I'm way more toppish, and with men, way more bottom-ish. The sex itself is different but mostly just due to the parts. With other women, there is no obvious progression. Men and straight people in general typically organize sex like this: kissing, touching, penis in vagina, but point 2 does not exist if a penis isn't present and you aren't going to use a strap-on. It's 100% point 1. Even if a strap-on is used, it's not the same, it's simply a sex toy somebody has attached to themselves. So sex with other women typically winds up being more creative and attentive, though being bi has given me a perspective that I think has also led to better sex with men. I don't define sex differently with men versus women, which means that oral is 100% having sex, a handjob is 100% having sex, etc. They're not foreplay, they're actual sex. That takes a lot of pressure off a guy. This works out well for my husband and me. We have had PIV sex less than once a year but very regularly do things that straight people call foreplay even though lesbians would call it sex. Ironically, he's the one who likes pretty much everything else more than PIV. For me it's mostly the intimacy level, the top, bottom and dom/sub roles. If they're present and it's not just casual wanna use each other to jerk off. Depends on the individual. Generally speaking though, kissing guys, I'm a guy by the way, has no appeal to me. With guys it's just really. I can get really passionate and have romantic sex with women though. I think I was born straight, but I stopped caring about much of anything at one point. Shortly after I figured out anal is actually really good, and we're all just a bunch of overpowered monkeys with cool stuff anyway. So now I guys too, as long as they respect the shower and douche rule. No douche, no dick. End of story. I'm a man, and I like both. Being with a woman is fun and passionate and smooth. Being with a guy is hot and wild, and a lot more intense. Just my opinion. I've had sex with a lot of people, so I think I have a larger than average sample size. That being said, I have found a few general differences. 1. Men tend to be rougher and do not take direction as well. If I tell a man to be softer, he'll usually default to whatever is his factory setting, but a female will actually make a change. 2. Women never pressure for orgasms. I don't know how many men say, "Come for me baby, come on," as if that's supposedly to magically make it happen. 3. For men, orgasms seem to be more of a self-congratulatory thing rather than actually giving pleasure. Men feel good making their partner come, but they don't really care if she actually came or just faked it. 4. Which leads to my last point. I would say most men get impatient with oral sex. I would say on average, a man can last only about 2 to 3 minutes before he gets bored and gives up or pressures you to orgasm fake it. I know it usually takes me 10 plus minutes depending. Women usually build it up so their tongue doesn't get tired instead of frantically licking from the get-go. This is not to speak badly of men as a whole. I have had plenty of fun sexual experiences with both genders. This is just something I have noticed. So, it's honestly not very different for me. To be completely honest, I choose my romantic partners based on compatibility and spark. Some people just naturally have a spark, and it draws me to them. I've had wild aggressive times with women and sensual loving long-lasting times with men and vice versa. While it is slightly different based on genitalia, the real difference is personality and chemistry between the partners. I'm a man by the way, currently very happily with a man, and our sex is usually very passionate and can go on for hours. We aren't much into penetration though, just oral and body contact. Penetration is like once every few months kind of thing, and I usually top. In my experience, women tend to care more about how they're perceived than dudes do. They doll up, they get sexy, they shave their legs. Guys don't really do that. Most of the time it's like, oh, I'm gonna get laid. Even when chicks are just DTF, they're not just throwing on sweatpants. Dudes tend to make awkward small talk more often, probably because our minds focus on the end goal more than the act. Also, hair everywhere. Save the planet. Shave your asshole. You guys are having sex. By M. For me it's a lot like getting dinner. Sometimes I want a nice intimate night out with a diverse menu and great service being with a woman, and sometimes I'm drunk. It's 3 a.m., and I just need to find a place that's still open being with a guy. As a guy whose asshole is always open, I feel personally attacked. I've never had sex with anyone, so this is just a really fun post to read the comments on. Male bi. Never gone all the way with a dude. In terms of fantasy, I'm a very dominant with men, but very submissive with women. Don't know what that says about me, but there you are. My female partners and I tend to trade off who's pleasing who in the moment because we generally can all have multiple orgasms and the urge to just f***, the lack of better words, isn't there. With my male partners it tends to stay a lot more mutual. Sex is generally shorter with men. Men are generally less into going down on you, although surprisingly not that different from women in terms of ability. Obviously there are exceptions to this. This is my biggest disappointment in having sex with men. I'm a bit of a pillow princess and definitely a bottom, which is easier with men who tend to be more comfortable in a leading the action top role. It is easier to have sex all day with women, but sex also generally takes longer with women. Since being with women I'm more into finger banging overall. This is helpful if a guy has difficulty in the boner department. Greater likelihood of having an orgasm at the same time with men. You have to warm up the dildo versus not needing to be concerned about the temp of a dick. Also the banging is more fluid, although this depends on a woman's experience with using a strap-on. You can choose the dick size and shape with women. No erectile issues to deal with. No need to ever stop. Both genders can be selfish though, so no difference there. In my limited experience I've found that sex with other women is kind of easier. I've just had more practice with vaginas. I know what feels good for me and so far it translates easily to what feels good for other women. Sex with men isn't any less pleasurable. It just takes longer for me to figure out what feels good for them, especially since men tend to be less vocal in bed, which is a huge bummer. Please don't be afraid to make noise to let your partner know they're doing something right. Spending time figuring out what a new partner likes can be fun too. But with other women I always feel like I've got a head start, wink wink. Other than the obvious, I would say that in sex women are gentle even when they are rough and men are rough even when they are gentle. That's not exactly right, but it's true though, and I don't just mean the act of penetration, receiving versus giving. The only thing that doesn't line up with this is receiving oral sex from a man as man, which is amazingly gentle and good or can be, but giving oral sex, way more physical than going down on a woman. Even kissing is somehow more physical, less gentle. A lot of the other answers are also true. I girls and guys me, pretty much it, to be honest. I make love with women, and guys use me as a toy. I'm a man, FYI. Generally speaking, sex FF almost always contains oral. While it is not a rule, it does happen more often. IME. Also, strap-on sex is different. BC the giver cannot actually feel the cock, and as such must rely on cues body language to ensure their partner is being satisfied. Also, having no feeling in the strap-on means she can be totally 100% focused on her partner with no distractions, and also can her longer and longer without worrying about ejaculation. So, yay FF is awesome. However, all of those reasons are why MF sex is great, because of the sharing of feeling and sensation, and oral can be done as often as partners like, and anyone can and should learn to read their partner's body language. So, for me, lesbian sex means you take turns focusing on the other person almost exclusively, while heterosex means you get to enjoy the sensations simultaneously or separately. And don't spout 69 at me. 69 sucks. For me, there is a lot more kissing with girls, and girls are better at making out in general. If my female partner is even halfway decent, I can count on a mind-blowing orgasm from oral. Orgasms with guys are not a given, and men don't usually go down. I enjoy both, by the way, and sex with women is just special cause it doesn't happen very often. Men don't have boobs, and I like boobs and beards. While beautiful to look at and run my hands through, scratch me. Women can't pin me down as easily as a man can do, and they don't feel as imposing. I like my partner to be, or at least feel, bigger and taller than me, which apparently, as a 166 centimeters woman, I think it's 5 feet 5, is too much to ask. Men don't have boobs. Found the non-American. Which way the dick goes in.